Good morning. On this week's episode of Haston Helping Hands, I'm going to talk to you about slowing down. It's hard, isn't it? To stay silent, to be quiet, to move slower. I'm even finding myself having a hard time speaking as slowly as I want to during this section. I made a mistake last week because I was in a hurry. And something that we are trying to teach our 4-year-old is to slow down. We are talking to her about moving slower so she doesn't whack her head into things, moving slower so she doesn't hurt herself or other people. And that's a very real consequence that I was faced with last week. I was in a hurry. I wasn't feeling great. I was trying to do too many things at once, and I messed up on something important. What it is doesn't matter, because I think the bigger takeaway for me and that I want to impart to you is the importance of slowing down. If I had slowed down for just a minute, I would have realized that I was rushing. I would have realized that I wasn't ready to do the task at hand, that I needed a little bit more rest. I needed a little bit more preparation. And I think the reason that we rush around and that we get so caught up in, I have to do it now, I have to do it now, I have to do it now, is because time is our only unrenewable resource. Think about it. Everything else you can get more of. You can get more money, you can get more stuff, there's so many things that you can get more of, but time is just not one of them. And I put this together last week when I had my mistake, and I was talking to some other people, one of whom is a really good friend of mine, and she was saying, the thing is that mistakes teach us things, and that's not always a bad thing. And it's still a good idea to slow way, way down. If you think about it, mistakes that you've made, something you've said that's been thoughtless, has it been because you took your time and really thought about what you wanted to say? I'm going to go ahead and say probably not. So there's a lot to be said for the notion of slowing down. I think about that whenever I send a text message to somebody and I get the bubbles back. You know the bubbles I'm talking about. And they're just sitting there and you're waiting for something to come back, and you're getting increasingly more anxious because they haven't written you back yet. And you get yourself frothed up in this milkshake that doesn't even really mean anything. They could literally be sitting there thinking about what they're going to say, or they could be typing a novel, or they could be in the middle of doing something else and they actually forgot to respond to you. And I think back to the days when we wrote letters and people had to wait for weeks to get a response to something. And now we have to wait minutes and we get impatient. I think it's because the information is readily available, and it's just if that person would hurry up and text me back faster. But really, what's your hurry? Think about it like this. If I wake up and I'm rushing around and I'm hurrying and I'm hustling and hustling and hustling, and I definitely do this. Remember, I'm a practitioner. I am definitely not an expert here. I always have a little bit worse of a day because I'm rushing myself and I'm rushing my daughter, and sometimes I'm rushing my husband out the door. And it's like, I don't want to live life that way. And so something that my daughter is actually teaching me, because I was talking to her about the mistake that I made because I did not slow down. And I used the words, I said, how mom and dad are always telling you to slow down? Well, there's a really good reason for that. There are consequences when you don't slow down. And I thought about it and I said, gosh, here we go again. She's teaching me. She's teaching us. And so it is my endeavor to ask you to think back over the last couple of weeks. Has there been a conversation that would have been helped by time? Has there been an interaction, maybe on social media, maybe over the phone, that could have been helped by time? And instead of jumping to a conclusion, you sat back, you thought about it and said, you know, that's probably not about me. That probably has a lot more to do with them than it does with me. And if I assume positive intent here, I'm probably going to be doing myself a world of good. So my endeavor is going to be to slow way, way down. And I'm going to invite you to join me in looking back over the last couple of weeks and think, was there a time that you did something not super smart, a little bit rash maybe, and it was because you were in a rush? I think back to times when I've made a turn a little bit too quickly and almost gotten into a wreck. Thankfully, I did not get into a wreck, but I remember that feeling. I remember that tight feeling. And I know that whenever my head gets hot and I feel like these prickles in my head, that's a danger sign. Like I really need to slow down. So, what can you tell me about a time when you should have slowed down? I don't need all the details. I just need you to say, oh yeah, I'm with you, I've done it. Or I had that happen yesterday. Something like that. Just to let everyone else know who's watching that we're not alone, that we're going through this together, and that there are definitely times when we could stand to slow down. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Jen Haston, and this has been Haston Helping Hands.